Now, I'm assuming that you get different levels of experienced foster parents. Some need a little bit more help than others. What kind of support do they get from Anti-Cruelty?
Our foster parents are, first of all, there's an application process that everybody has to go through to make sure that their household, that their lifestyle is appropriate for fostering. Things to consider when thinking about potential fostering are the same things that you would consider when potentially adopting an animal. Even though the animal is temporarily going to be in your home for a month or so, they're your responsibility for that entire time. So we ask, someone be home occasionally throughout the day to take care of the animal. Maybe if somebody lives on the 36th floor of a high-rise in downtown Chicago, a 100-pound dog is probably not the best option for them. So we ask fosters to consider all of those options before getting involved in fostering. But then once an animal actually gets into their home, they have complete access to myself, being the director of the foster program. Any problems or any questions come up. They also have complete access to our veterinary clinic and our behavior and training team as well. Occasionally animals will go out that we didn't think were sick and potentially end up sick in the foster home. The incubation period for kennel cough and upper respiratory infection is up to 2 weeks. So sometimes an animal will leave non-symptomatic from the shelter but come down with some symptoms in the foster home, so they can come back to our clinic and work with our veterinarians and support staff getting that animal well. In addition, if any behavior problems come up, if a kitty is pottying outside of the litter box, or if they're scratching the couch, or if they're playing a little too rough, or whatever kind of issues pop up, they have priority with our behavior and training team as well to help them work through those issues.
I would imagine that one of the great things about the foster program is that you have all kinds of information now about this animal and how they would react in a normal setting. When the animal then goes to get adopted, does that information get passed on?
Absolutely, and that is one of the benefits, certainly for the animals, but also for the potential adopters, is that there's a lot more insight into the animal's personality, and we actually have reliable information on how that animal behaves in a household. And yes, we do pass that information along. Every time a foster animal comes back to the shelter for adoption, we do attach a personality profile that the foster parent fills out and is able to report on the behaviors of the animals, their habits, their likes, their dislikes, what kind of food they had them on as well, all of those kind of things. And in addition, we are going to soon start a specific foster blog on the internet that foster parents can upload pictures, descriptions of their foster animals, that we can also send that link home with adopters so that they can follow up with follow the path that the foster parent had set for that animal. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah, we're very excited about getting that started.
I would think that if I was an adopter and I went to adopt a dog and there was a profile in there that said a little bit about what it was like at home, it would make it more personal. You would be more attracted to that animal.
Absolutely, certainly.
Well, it looks like we have another caller. Emily, you're on the air. What's your question?
Hi, I'm just curious, if you spend some time fostering a dog or a cat and you end up feeling really close to that animal and want to keep it as your own permanent pet, is that possible, or what is the process?
Absolutely, that's possible, and that happens all the time. We actually have a name for when that happens. We call you foster failures. And certainly we do celebrate with you, though, when an animal has found a permanent loving home, and that's a wonderful situation. And that's something to consider as well when you're considering fostering, is that you are taking in animals that, for all intents and purposes, are more needy than the general animal that you might take home because they are sick or they're underage. They just need that extra nurturing. So I think the bonding period is a lot quicker, a lot stronger for foster parents with these animals. And then you're asked to basically give them back a couple weeks or a month later, which can be heartbreaking for some people. And certainly it has happened that folks end up keeping the foster animal, and that is A-OK by us. And we ask that you then take a break from fostering any future fosters just to acclimate further that animal, the permanently adopted animal, now into the home, and make sure everybody settles in together. But when you're ready and your animals at home are ready and the rest of your family's ready, we're more than happy to have you back to continue fostering with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for your
Emily.
question.
So how many foster parents do you have right now, and how does someone how do you recruit? How do you get these people?
It's difficult for me to say how many foster parents we have exactly. I usually say we have about 125. Some of those folks are strictly cat foster homes. Some of those folks are strictly dog foster homes. Some people are willing to do whatever. Some foster homes are sort of a revolving door for us. They, bring one litter of kittens in and take another one out all on the same trip, and some take a couple months or a couple weeks break in between. But in general, we have about 100 to 125 foster homes for us. So,
that's a lot.
Yeah, we're very, very lucky in that regard.
That's
and
wonderful.
Most of the animals that we need to place for foster always end up in a foster home. So we're truly, truly lucky in that regard.
So if somebody's thinking about it, you kind of talked a little bit about this earlier, and they're thinking, oh, maybe I want to foster, but I'm not really sure. What should they be considering when they're making that decision?
The number one thing is to think about your lifestyle. A lot of people who are attracted to the foster program are folks who cannot permanently take on an animal. So this is kind of a good way for them to have an animal but not really have a pet in their home. Young professionals who do a lot of traveling for their job, people who live in the downtown area in a high-rise building and it's just difficult for them to permanently have a dog or cat in their building, situations like that, or even folks who are temporarily in the city, perhaps doing an internship or on a permanent sabbatical for their job or something. They are attracted to the foster program often. So I'd say the number one thing is to think about your lifestyle and what you're able to handle. A lot of times, too, people will make the decision to just do foster cats, to just foster dogs, and a lot of times that comes down to personal preference or, prior history or just comfort level with the animals as well. But again, when folks come to us to foster, we don't make them do anything that they're not comfortable with. So if somebody says that they can only do, black and white male kittens under the age of 8 weeks, that's fine. We can certainly accommodate that. So we're just happy to have as many people willing to help us out in some way, shape, or form.
You said that sometimes people have a certain block of time that they're available. That just made me think, do you ever get teachers or students that have the summer off?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that actually works to our advantage. Most of the time we see a spike in our population, certainly in the cats, not so much in the dogs, in the summer warmer months. So we do get a lot of teachers, a lot of families who, for whatever reason, mom or dad are just home for the summer, and a lot of students who are back from college and are able to take in some pets for a couple months in the summer. Yeah, so that's a huge population for us.
Now, do you go through a process of matching the foster parent with the pet, and how would you do that?
Again, that really is done on the foster parent side. When the doctors decide that an animal needs to be fostered, I will send it out to our foster list, give as much information as I know about the animal. It's a male, 42-pound, unneutered boxer mix. And, I tell them where it came from, how it ended up at the Anti-Cruelty Society, exactly why it needs to be fostered, if it's kennel cough or some other reason. And then the doctors will always tell me how long they anticipate the foster period to last, 2 to 3 weeks, 1 to 2 months, in their best estimation, how long they think that animal is going to need in foster care. I'll throw that information out to our foster homes and let them decide. A lot of times I'll tell people, if it's a good time ahead for work, your work schedule is pretty thin, or you're not doing any traveling, or you don't have any friends or family in from out of town visiting, and it's a good time for you, I let the people make the decisions on their own. And again, we do have that comfort level of having 100 to 125 foster families, so more often than not it works for somebody's schedule.
So basically it's first come, first serve.
Yeah, sort of.
So do you have some animals that get jumped on a lot quicker than others?
Absolutely.
The kittens and the puppies?
The kittens and the puppies, much like adoption, are not very difficult sells for me. The dogs and the adult cats sometimes wait a little bit longer for a foster home to scoop them up. But again, we have the luxury of having the space in the shelter for them to hang out for a couple days until a foster parent can come and scoop them up.